Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. My name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Man Mouth. Had a good show earlier on the Professor and People with myself and Stephen Rice show. We're talking baseball tonight, and Mickey and I and Eric did it on Saturday, and we talked about the Jays, but we have a pretty interesting show lined up tonight. We're going to talk about high-paid players. Players aren't automatically all-stars. Wait till I give you the list of the ones that did make it and the few that did. So with that said, let me introduce my crew to you right to left. We got our manager, Mickey Callaway. Glad to have him on again.
Thanks for having me.
And Candy.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
And we've got Catsy.
Thanks,
Eric.
Glad to be here.
And we got Rob, Mr. Met Maraska. Of course, I wonder how long he'll be Mr. Met or Mr. Mud, but
happy to be here, Scott. Thank you.
Call Mr. Medding.
Yeah, that's funny. And last but not least, George Eichhorn.
Hello, everyone. Welcome.
All right, so let's get to the topics. Lot to get to. Number one, as I said before, we're going to lead off with our top high players. High-paid players aren't automatically all-star. I'm going to give you a list, and I want everybody to give me an idea about which one's surprising. You comment on as many as you want, because this is a pretty unbelievable list with a lot of money out there. According to Front Office Sports, 7 of the top 10 MLB payroll salaries were left off the all-star list. I'll go over the list and the amount of money that they're making. And for those of you that obviously, whether I talk too fast or not, you can always replay it and listen to it again if you like. We got no problem. But Juan Soto tops that list at $61.8 million. Zach Wheeler is at $48 million. And he actually made it. Let's see, Juan Soto did not. Aaron Judge made it at $40 million. Jacob deGrom at $40 million was an all-star. Yeah, he made it all right. Anthony Rendon, we're going to talk about him after this. At $38.5 million, did not make it. Carlos Correa, $37.3 million, did not make it. Mike Trout, $37.1 million, did not make it. Garrett Cole, $36 million, no. And Jose Altuve went out there at $33 million, no. And Tyler Glasnow, $32.5 million, no. What a list. Skip, what do you think? A lot of money.
Yeah.
Didn't play in the Midsummer Classic.
Yeah, it really is. I think, you expect most, if not all of those guys to be all-stars, but we've talked about this in the past, and you pay guys for what they've done, not what they're going to do. So a lot of these contracts, not many of them are kind of been paid for what they've done in the past. And I'm surprised that some of these guys, didn't perform well enough to get on the team. It used to be where if you were one of the highest paid players, you didn't even have to hardly play. You could play 12 games and you were on the all-star team. I'm glad that's changed, though. I think you should have to be worthy of it and earn it. But yeah, I am surprised that that's quite a few guys that aren't on that.
Catsy?
Well, it doesn't shock me, though, and here's why. Because number one, you know what we can't account for is one of those young players who comes into his own and breaks out and becomes an all-star from here on out. You just can't time those things. I mean, for some of those guys, it's not a lack of trying. I mean, Glasnow, we all know about his health issues. That's just the way that is. When he's healthy, he's plenty all-star caliber. However, his biggest problem is his health has always gotten in the way. The Dodgers signed him to that contract knowing that, hey, we'll still get all-star like performances out of him. However, there's going to be a point in time where he's going to be he's probably going to be shelved for a little bit. deGrom, who it was nice to see him back. I think if anybody who I was happy for being there, it was deGrom, because deGrom's an all-star.
Right.
deGrom's an all-star when he's healthy. Unfortunately, he's kind of has Sandy Koufax's luck. And it doesn't surprise me. I mean, we see this every year. I think the slow start by Juan Soto is kind of hurt him there. In the beginning of the year, which ultimately kind of turned the voters off to him. And again, you can't time like one of those young prospects breaking out. It happens all the time, and those kids are hungry and they want to play because they're not making any money yet, so they want to further bolster their cause to make more money by making an all-star team.
Rob?
Yeah, well, like Mickey said, these contracts are paid for what they've done, not what they're going to do. So you're going to have a list of high-paid ball players. You know, just because they're the highest paid don't mean they're all-stars every year. There's injuries on that list that you gave us. There are players who were picked for the all-star game, but they chose not to go. And I don't want to seem like a Mets homer, but with Juan Soto, it could have went either way. Like Kat said, you know, it was the slow start. But by the time the all-star game got there, you know, came up, he was back to being Juan Soto. So it could have went either way.
George?
Well, I think back to, yesteryear, as we call it. And when you got Brooks Robinson, Frank Robinson, the American League, Al Kaline, you got all these guys that, like you said, Scott, year after year, you count them in for being an all-star. And the game has changed so much. And with expansion, there's so many more teams that are represented, have to have at least one representative, as we know. That's a tradition that baseball's had for a long, long time.
Right.
And the fact of the matter is, like you guys said, I mean, there's been more injuries, it seems like, recently than we've ever had. And, some guys, you just can't, you got to shake your head and say, what's going on? I mean, Trout is a good example. That one always jumps out at me. Correa, he got traded during the season, but all that money the Twins paid for him. And then, of course, I do agree with some of them. I mean, not all of them were true all-stars this year, but with the roster, even though they expand the roster, it's still not enough room to get everybody in. But you're exactly right. I mean, you're paid on past performance. We know that, Skip. And I don't see that changing anytime soon because the Players Association would probably balk at anything like that. We'll see what happens in the next contract negotiations.
Candy?
These guys had great seasons at some point in the past to earn them their high paid salary now. But that doesn't mean this season they're having a great year. And Rob, I'm going to take a page out of your book. You want to talk about high paid players should be automatically all-stars, then they should automatically be in the World Series too, because if they're the highest paid, they should be performing the best. They should be in the World Series. But yet my lovely Brewers were the first team to qualify for the playoffs, and they're the bottom third of the payroll for this year. So it doesn't always work out. It's not an automatic just because you have a high salary that you're going to be an all-star or in the World Series.
Well, the only I'll say about the thing is 70% of the group seems high to me. 70%. I understand half, but not that many of this group. And that's a lot of money that isn't going to Atlanta. That's all I'm going to say about it. I get it. And and I'll give Rob the benefit of the doubt. And if Soto had gotten hot a little earlier, then it would have been 60% and he would have been in that group. But that's a benefit of the doubt, okay? I'm not giving him the benefit because they doubted him enough to keep him off. But 70% of that group is not on it. But that's a great segue about where we're going to go. I thought about using this topic last week, but I decided to wait, especially when I saw this top 10, because it's more appropriate tonight than it would have been last week. But get this. Could you imagine if Anthony Rendon liked baseball? He signed a 7-year, $245 million contract with the Angels during the 2019 offseason. Since then, LA has used a league-leading 34 different third basemen. Step 34. We can count that high. Anthony Rendon, the love of the game. Don't look like it's with him, but he loves the money.
Well, you know what? I've been around Anthony, and I was on the coaching staff there his first year in Anaheim. And I think what's been reported is totally inaccurate, taken out of context. And I don't think Anthony Rendon does not like the game of baseball. I think he loves the game of baseball. I think his statement was, and it was cherry-picked out of this statement, was that he doesn't necessarily think that baseball is one of his top two. And then he talks about his faith and his family. And you can't ever, hold that against somebody. I think if that is actually the case of what happened, and knowing Anthony and being around him, watching him enjoy being at the ballpark every day and being with the players, it seems to me like it was intentionally or not intentionally taken out of context. But I think everybody in that in this game should take the same approach as Anthony, because those things are very important. I have to say, sometimes I was so engrossed in my career, my baseball career, that my family came second, and it wasn't intentional. But it was just something that happened from time to time because you're always on the road. I missed my kids growing up. And I think that's the kind of stuff that Anthony was talking about when the season's too long, things like that. And I think, it was probably taken out of context and maybe cherry picked just certain parts and wasn't published the whole thing. So, I have to defend Anthony here.
Okay,
he's a great third baseman. Right. When he was going good, and man, we had a tough time getting him out. And unfortunately, he's been hurt. And I think a lot of this stuff has been, on the back of him being injured, not performing because he's been injured, and getting all this money, and then people, kind of hating on him because of that. But, I agree with his stance that his faith in his family, especially family, should come first. And you always have to have that balance of personal life and professional life. And it sounds like he does that pretty well.
All right, you can defend the faith and family all day long, but don't tell me that Arthur Marino is going to defend the numbers, because he's paying a lot of money and he's writing a check too. And when you go for 34 different third basemen, nobody's going to sit here and tell me, no matter who it is, that 34 different third basemen, when you invested 7 years and $245 million out of your pocket to think you solidified that position. Let me ask you a question, Skip. How far will $245 million on Sage Ranch go to help you get your school built?
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, he got paid, and unfortunately he's been hurt a lot. And, that's something you can't do a ton about. I'm sure the Angels have insurance on him, probably collecting 80% of his paycheck back. But yeah, using 34 third baseman, it's going to be hard to have a solid ball club when you're having to do that.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Hey, listen, I get it. Sometimes guys don't live up to their contracts. It's not the first one, nor will he ever be the last one that's ever not lived up to a contract. But the reality, the Angels have to look at it like, okay, we spent this kind of money. We still got the same problem at the hot corner anyways. That's all I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Now, obviously, you set the record about what's on the inside. I didn't know that. That's why you're on here, to do that. I'll give you that much. But I'm not giving you the fact that they went through 34 third baseman while he's still in the building. That's a different story, whether it's injuries or not. You still need a guy at that position, one of the most important positions on the diamond, and he hasn't been that guy, unfortunately.
Right. And that's the thing that makes it tough for the front office, right? You're waiting, you're hoping the next year he's going to be okay, so he can go out there and put up the numbers he's capable of doing, so you don't go and get a solid replacement player. You end up using 34 guys. Sometimes you just have to go, we got to go solidify this position. Third base is a very important position on the baseball field. I think that really stinks if you're a front office and trying to build a club.
I agree. All right, Catsy.
Well, the thing about Rendon is, obviously I didn't know that until Skip brought that up either. Unfortunately, though, when he cashed out with the Angels, and it was actually people viewed it as a good, people forget though, it was a good signing at the time. And he was just coming off a year where he drove in 126 runs and hit 34 home runs and made it to the All-Star game for the first time in his career. It seemed like he was kind of starting to hit the peak performance of his career. Unfortunately, though, his body fell apart on him. It happens all the time. You play and you play and you play, and then eventually, again, the body's is not designed to be doing something repeatedly over and over and over and over again. But unfortunately to Rendon, it just fell apart at him. And people forget too. I'm going to bring up another guy who's in a similar situation to Rendon, Chris Bryant in Colorado. Okay. Bryant gave a similar interview where he didn't really say it the same. Actually, he said it a little bit harsher than Rendon did about essentially essentially implied that he regretted signing with the Colorado Rockies, saying he should have done some more research into the prospects they had coming up. So, again, it's not quite direct, but still a pretty thinly veiled shot at the Rockies there, which, to be truthful, I can't say I blame them. But again, I think how Rendon's looking at it is he sees that the end is potentially near. He's 34 years old. And so, in baseball terms, that's, your career is kind of, in most careers are starting to kind of wind down at that point. And I think he realizes that. And I think he's at peace. Now, mind you, the media is going to sensationalize things. That's just what they do. I mean, but he's just, I think he just knows that the end is near. I mean, he's trying to salvage it the best he can. I mean, the Angels obviously aren't going to pity him because ultimately they're paying him a lot of money not to play. But, again, I think it was kind of, I just think that he's viewing it as, hey, my career is winding down, but I got all this once I'm done.
All right. Fair. Rob?
I'm glad that Mickey set the record straight. I really am, because he has, Rendon has gotten a lot of bad press. The contract, hindsight's 2020. The contract now, yes, it's a bad contract. We know that. But we didn't know he was going to get injured. We didn't know he was going to be injured. So, for a long time of this contract, he's been injured. So I'm glad that Mickey said that, because we could look at other contracts, right? And, here we go again with the Mets. Well, not really with the Mets, with Texas now, but DeGrom, was that a smart move by the Texas Rangers? What did they get out of that? He's back now. He's pitching DeGrom-like, but that's another contract. He's injured for a lot of that contract, right? David Wright. Love David Wright. The Mets had insurance on David Wright, luckily, because of the time he missed, how his career ended. So the Angels, like Mickey said, I'm sure the Angels have insurance on that contract. And you cannot help the injuries. And I'm never going to put a guy down and, for putting family and faith ahead of baseball or any sport. I'll never do that.
Well, neither will I. Like I said, we have a manager on the panel, and he's setting the record straight. Just I happen to be there. All right, Ike Lorne.
Well, let's look back on his career. Okay, with Washington, he ended up winning the World Series, in 2019, and at that point he had, massive stats, as we know. So he was one of the best hitters in baseball at that time. So do I fault the Angels for signing this contract? Heck no. But isn't it ironic, sadly ironic, I guess you could say, if you're an Angels fan, especially with Mike Trout, and then you got Rondon, and the money that's tied up in these two individuals, and per se, you're not getting anywhere near your money's worth. It's an unfortunate situation. It goes back to, again, handing out big contracts. Rondon, no, I'm not going to fault him for that, family and faith. But you're right. I mean, Scott, 34 different third basemen. 34, right. Think of that. And this is just an incredible statistic. And other teams have struggled at different positions too. We all know that. But like I said, Rondon was high. At that time, it was a good move probably. And the Angels thought they were going to get themselves a world championship, which has not happened, as we all know. And there's no chance it's going to happen anytime soon. But as an individual, I do applaud him and standing up for that. But it's a sad situation only for the Angels. That's for sure.
Yeah, nobody's going to ever go ahead and, like they say, talk about family and faith. I get that. I think we've already certainly emphasized that point throughout the night. But again, circumstances are being what they are. The number 34 third baseman still is out there, no matter whether you want to slice it with the insurance play or not. The Angels certainly haven't filled a need. Since we're on that list, let's go to another guy who's probably glad that he did get moved at the trade deadline. And we'll talk about Carlos Correa to Houston. This is the only team I would go to win a championship. Time will tell whether they do. But what are your thoughts, Skip, about Correa? Candy, did you have a chance to go ahead and talk about the other one? Go ahead, and then we'll go to Correa. Go ahead, Candy. Sorry about that.
It's okay. Part of his full exchange, he was asked, last year you had said you'd consider retiring. What's your mindset now? Way back in 2014, he wrote himself an email that said and gave him pros and cons of why he should stay in the game. His thought process of the game has not changed since then. What's changed since then is his mindset. He's married, has 4 kids. His priorities have changed since he was in his early 20s. He's got a different perspective. Yes, faith and family, we all said it. But the other thing is he has to also, one of the things that any professional athlete also has to consider is his health. Faith, family, health, and then your job. Because let's remember, this is just a job for him. When he retires from this, he can do other things. So I think we've got to be careful when we, in the media, take things out of context a little bit too. So you can go to your next topic, Scott.
Yeah, we all know that sort of thing happens. Skip, welcome to the media, pal. This was what a lot of the unethical ones do when they only write down half of it. But that's what happens. That's why a lot of times people in the places like New York and Philadelphia are reluctant to talk to people. Once upon a time, everybody will tell you Steve Carlton never wanted to talk to media after they did the same thing to him. I once considered talking to him, but I knew he wasn't talking to anybody. I said, I got Von Hayes. And when some fan was yelling, hey, Von, and they criticized him, 6 for 1, or they called him, I got a good interview from Von Hayes after that. I'm going after this guy. He did talk to me, and we all knew Steve Carlton didn't care for the media. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Okay, now back to Korea, Skip. He's in Houston. Do you think he's enough to get it done, or do you think Houston's going to need a whole lot more than Carlos to finish this thing off?
Yeah, you know what? I think Houston has a fine ball club, and if they get hot, with Carlos or without him, I think they could win a championship, just like 10 other teams out there. They've been there before. A lot of their players know what's going on. They've been deep in the postseasons. They've won World Series. That speaks a lot when you're trying to get through the postseason. So we'll see what they can do. I think they have a team that can get it done if they are playing the right way. And it's going to be a competitive postseason, and I'm looking forward to watching it.
Eric.
Well, I will say though that Houston really has only won 1 World Series. Let's all keep that in perspective.
You will.
Well, again, but to everyone's point, Houston, they've been there, they've done that. They're obviously the AL West has kind of caught up to them a little bit. Especially the Seattle Mariners, who this is the deepest lineup they've had in God knows how long, probably since I was in elementary school. It's a they're going to be a tough out. I mean, they've all been down the road before of being in the postseason. They all know what it's like. They know they know what it's going to be like at both home and away, and they've proven time and time again they know how to navigate all the adversity that comes with it. But the fact that I think Correa has been able to kind of circle his career back to where it all began, I think is really cool. Now he's another one of those guys where I'm not sure how much he has left in the tank, but it'll be nice. But it'll be nice to see him kind of round out his career with Houston for maybe possibly another run or two.
Well, the only thing I'll say about Korea, and that's all I'll say before we go around, is I think that he appreciates being in Houston more now since he left.
Yeah.
And I'll turn over to Rob.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, Scott, definitely. And, Houston's Houston. I know Eric said about the 1 World Series. We know about the other one. But you know what? They're always in it. They're a game out right now. Seattle, though. Seattle is really hot. They're
right.
The last 10 games are 9-1.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we've never seen – it's been since Sweet Lou was the manager. We haven't seen a Mariners team like this, right? They're exciting. This is probably one of the best Mariner teams of all time. So it's going to be, like Mickey said, it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward for the next couple of weeks, and then the playoffs. It's going to be a great playoff this year because it's so off balance. Like anyone in that group is in it right now, and that's what they wanted with the wild card and the way they set it up, right? They wanted these teams to be in it till the end.
And for those of you listening the first time, Rob means Sweet Lou Piniella. Lou Piniella, one of the better managers ever, go out there and manage in the game. And what he did with the Cincinnati Reds, we'll talk about that down the road dealing with Mark Schott will always go down the ages of an Al Michaels. Do you believe in miracles? And I'll leave it at that. But and we'll bring it up for a future teaser topic.
Rob Dibble too.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, we'll leave that up. All right, Eichhorn, have we given you much to work with there? I feel bad for you.
Not nearly enough. Sorry. No, just kidding. Yeah, I mean, there's a bidding war for his services. That other team that Scott doesn't want me to mention, they were looking to sign him. They ended up with a guy named Baez. And certainly Correa did not stay long enough in Minnesota, in my eyes. I mean, they were looking for him. Again, one of their core players, push them over the finish line, get into the World Series and win it. And then they end up with this situation. But like you said, Katsy, I think it is good. I think it is. He's, come full circle and he's back with the Astros. There's something about going back home, of the home cooking and the warm feeling that certainly the fans had for him back in those days when he was there before. And, he's still got some left in the tank. And they're certainly going to be in the hunt. I mean, like you guys said, there's 8 to 10 teams that could win it all. Houston's one of them. I really think that he's a little bit on the downside of his career, but he's still got some good baseball left in him for sure.
Yeah, I was waiting for that hobby bias mentioned by you, Eichhorn. That's why I waited on it so I can put it in there.
I was going to say, I can tell you what went wrong in Minnesota. Part of it was, number one, the Pohlads are being the Pohlads here. And then number two, the core that they had with Royce Lewis and Carlos Correa and also Byron Buxton, it just couldn't stay healthy. They just were never healthy they were never healthy at the same time. And that's ultimately what led to the Twins' downfall. And then also Joe Pohlad decided to go up on stage and after winning the AL Central and also win a postseason series for the first time in God knows how long. He goes up and says it's time to right-size the payroll, which ultimately led to that team's downfall.
Okay, Candy, you have the last word on this.
The Twins' regional television revenue declined significantly after the Diamond Sports Group bankruptcy, prompting ownership to reduce spending and eventually put the club up for sale. What did the Astros needed? They needed some offense to improve their team. Correa returned, provided a proven player. The other thing that I don't know that we really talked about is he's also a clubhouse leader and what he can do to really help the rest of that team improve. We talk about guys on the field and what they produce, but sometimes we forget what they do inside the locker room and how they gel the locker room. And I can tell you, one of the players for the Brewers is Christian Yelich. He really provides a lot of support within and leadership within that locker room. And sometimes that's the last little thing that you need, the last little piece to help you get over these little struggling humps.
Okay, now let's go to on this date, because I know this will be right up Rod's alley. Okay, on this date, September 15th, 87, Keith Hernandez collect his 2000th hit as the Mets have a 12-4 rout of the Cubs. Were you at that game, Rob? Seems like you're at a lot of places. Hey, Eddie, good job last Wednesday night.
I was not at that game. That was one of the ones I was not at. But listen, Keith should be in the Hall of Fame. I don't care what anybody says. Right. Probably the best fielding first baseman in the history of baseball. You have two guys playing in New York at the same time, Don Mattingly and Hernandez, who both should probably be in the Hall of Fame.
Okay. All right, George, what are your thoughts about on this date? Focuses on Keith Hernandez.
2,000 hits. Yeah, he ended up with 2182. So for him, that was, a watershed moment for him. Of course, reaching 2,000 hits. We all know that it's so difficult to get 3,000. But I agree with you, Mr. Matt. He was outstanding in the field, Gold Glove, and his bat too. He was a very, very fine hitter. I always admired him. He had a really good career, very consistent in his career, and so that was a special date that you mentioned. And certainly, it's nothing to be unhappy about when you get 2,000. And again, he ended with 2,100 or so.
Katsy?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Keith Hernandez obviously was a big part of that New York Mets World Series team in 1986, and probably it was also probably one of the last times for a while up until David Wright arrived, when the Mets had any self-respect for themselves. They were. It was, obviously Keith was probably the best first baseman in the league at that time, probably right next to Don Mattingly. I'm sure that during that period of time, Rob, that everybody was having debates in school about who was better, Mattingly or Keith Hernandez, pre-social media, and I'm sure pre-social media the debates were still pretty heated. But again, he's he's obviously he's a borderline Hall of Famer. He finally got his number retired. Not sure why it took him so long there to get it retired, given that you could probably say he was the unofficial captain of that Mets team during the 80s.
Well, he was the official captain.
Oh, he was?
So, yeah.
I didn't
And
realize
Gary
that.
Carter, co-captains, yes.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, given what he had meant to that franchise, he meant more to he meant just as much to the Mets as Gary Carter did during that time. So yeah, obviously he was a terrific ball player for the Mets for a long period of time.
Katie?
A contact hitter with a .296 career average, a walk rate of 12.5%. Hernandez's career hitting productivity was 31% above league average. His defensive work, he received 11 consecutive Gold Glove awards, the most by any first baseman in baseball history. He's widely considered the best defensive first baseman of all time. He played for 17 years. That longevity tells you a lot too. Hall of Fame worthy, yes.
Skip?
Yeah, Keith is a great guy. Obviously, an amazing baseball player. I used to love to watch him. Him and Mattingly, like Rob said, I think they should be on that cusp of the Hall of Fame. Like Candy was just talking about, 17 years, 11 Gold Gloves in a row, the most by any first baseman. Those are unbelievable stats. 2,000 hits is a great accomplishment. That's one reason he's in the booth with the Mets. He's going to be a lifelong Met. He's a Met legend. He always will be. But I think his biggest accomplishment was his acting on Seinfeld. It was tremendous. I mean, he was fantastic. He was so smooth in that. But Keith had a great career, and I think he deserves, probably a little bit more fanfare nationally than he receives. I think that he's kind of a walking legend out there right now, just like Mattingly, and those guys need to be recognized a little bit more. These people that get to be around these guys at the field, Mattingly is obviously on the field with the players,
Right.
and then Keith's there at Citi Field every day and on the road with the team. And I don't think some of these players realize who these guys are. Here's a great story, and I don't want to keep on going on. And this is not necessarily about Keith, but Paul Malter it's more about the players in this age. Paul Malter is coaching the Twins. He's the manager of the Twins. He's behind the shell. And one of our hitters for the Indians at the time, Guardians now, was hitting. And he's a prolific first baseman, still playing. And somebody goes, hey, anyway, Paul Malter said something to him about his swing or whatever. And then we asked him when he came out, I said, do you know who that guy is? And he had no clue who Paul Malter was. It was crazy to me. It's not like he's 95 or anything. He's managing the Twins over there, and he's a Hall of Famer. It's amazing. I hope these players, pick these guys out and talk to them, pull them aside. Hey, how can I get better? We saw it with Rafael Devers and Will the Thrill. I mean, it's like they don't even value their opinion. It's kind of insane to me.
You really struck a chord with that one. Now you really did. I'm covering the Tampa Bay Rays and the Tigers over at Tropicana Field. I go up to Mike Maroc, who at the time I think is wearing Mickey Lolich's number. I'll never forget this. I mentioned Mickey Lolich's name. He didn't even know who he was.
Yeah.
I go over to Troy Percival. So a person will say, he doesn't know who Mickey Lowell is? No, he doesn't. This guy don't know about the history of the game. Percival goes up to him, and he gave him a history lesson. Well, when you brought that up, you really struck a chord.
It's just how it is.
You're right. A lot of these guys just don't know the history of the game, which is a sad thing because if it weren't for that, these guys, they wouldn't be making the amount of money that they're making to begin with, let alone the fact the game wouldn't be in shape that it is. So, yeah, it is what it is. So, yeah, Eddie Prather makes a good point here. It wasn't just the best first baseman. He might be also a top 2 St. Louis Cardinals first baseman as well. Few people realize that he started his career with St. Louis Cardinals. Thanks, Eddie, for bringing that up.
He did.
Yeah, he did. So
he also won a World Series there.
MVP also. MVP also.
Yeah.
He's
Thanks for bringing it up.
Keith is also in the Hall of Fame for the St. Louis Cardinals as well as the New York Mets. So he's in both Hall of Fames for those 2 teams.
Yeah, I think what's holding him back though is like is him getting caught up in the mess and all the mess in Pittsburgh. I think that's probably what's holding him back though. But as you know, the Cardinals have kind of started to kind of gradually welcome him back a little bit. But you know, I think that's what's holding him back. But also, you know, people forget though, he's a pretty good announcer too. You know, in my opinion, I mean, the guy knows baseball. And I will say, Skip, that episode with Seinfeld. That episode with Seinfeld. Which part of his acting do you like? What happened to Kramer and Newman, or Elaine?
Oh yeah. That was a great part. Yeah, with the loogie. Who was that spit it?
McDowell, Roger.
Yeah, McDowell. Yeah. Roger would have really done that. They picked the right guy for that.
So Rob, our man Prather, our man Joe is helping you out a little before tomorrow. So go ahead. You can make reference to what's going to happen on Friday night.
Yes, Friday night. Finally, we're going to have Scott and we're going to have Anthony Savino, and it's going to be a loud night, as Chris said the other night when Mickey was on the show. This is going to be a loud night. A lot of people are waiting for this. We're already getting questions in that, you know, we have some questions for you, Scott, and we have questions for Anthony. So there's going to be a lot of people watching, and they've been waiting for this one. So it's going to be fun.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad we're doing it this week. Because last week I wouldn't have had the energy. I wouldn't have done it last week. I had a lot of energy, but this will be pretty good. I'm looking forward to it for sure. So thanks a lot, Joe, for putting it out there. It shall be fun. All right, who's left in here to talk about this? Or did
We all did.
We all did.
All right. Well, with that said. Okay, now that we got Hernandez out. All right, anybody want to learn a little something here? Because we always do that at least once a show. And we have a couple pretty easier ones, but I want to make sure we got those out there. All right, let's go ahead and learn a little something. And that's on that Mel Ott. Get this. Hits his 500th career home run as he helped the Giants beat the Braves 9-2. Can you believe that? Mel Ott, 500 career home runs. How many people remember him? Now, listen, Skip, with all due respect, we can't penalize the young ones for not knowing Mel Ott. That's a lot of the reasons. But what are your thoughts on Mel Ott in the 500 club?
Yeah, you know, I guess when I read this earlier today, I didn't realize he was such a great power hitter like that. You know, obviously, you know, you hear about Mel Ott, you hear his name a lot. I had a teammate in college with his last name was Ott, and we kind of called him Mel, so that was kind of fun. But I didn't realize he hit 500 homers in his career. What an amazing accomplishment, especially back then.
Yeah, no kidding.
Oh, Mel Ott had multiple years of hitting 30 or more home runs. He was one of the most. He was probably the premier power hitter of the 1930s, aside from Babe Ruth. But you know, one could argue that he was probably the National League's answer to Babe Ruth. He played for the New York Giants for his entire career. He began his career at the age of 17, which is incredible. But you know, he's a Hall of Famer for a reason. But you know, 500 home runs back in that time when power hitting was just starting to kind of take off. You know, Babe Ruth kind of started it, and then next thing you know, everybody's catching on to it. You know, it's pretty impressive though for the time.
Rob.
Yeah, I agree. For the time, definitely. And he played 22 years, all with the Giants, which, you know, that's amazing. Back then, playing 22 years he played from 1926 till 1947. Think about that. Wow. He also had 2,876 hits and a 304 batting average. So not too shabby.
George.
Scott, in those 22 years, he probably made half of what Rendon's making this year.
No kidding.
If
No,
that.
I'm with you.
was
I'm
back-
with you there, Skip.
That was back when the
I
owners
just
got.
I
He
just
probably
wanted
made
you to,
what Rendon makes in a month in 22
yeah,
years.
I was waiting for you to come up with that, Skip. That's why you're getting better at this broadcasting thing, because you're already figuring me out. But yeah, I knew that the Rendon thing was coming up some later, but now I was waiting for you when you were going to throw it at me. You're probably right. Hey, but with all due respect, though, the Rendon thing, when you look back at it, though, you still have to look at the years and the money and the production, even though I understand you set the record straight. And don't tell that to the owner, who expected a lot more than what the actual number is.
Right.
He's writing the checks. But yeah, that's okay. Bring on Rendon. You're right about everything. All right, Eichhorn, what's
Well,
there not to talk about that?
so 4th year in baseball, he was named the most valuable player. And then, believe it or not, talk about longevity. Later in his career, I don't know if it was his 20th year or what, he was named the MVP. So that's quite a spread. And that's an illustration of, and he also won some American League. I guess the 2 awards were together at one time, and then they got split up, as we know, for MVP. So he won when he was really young, then he won when it was the twilight of his career. That guy was a great hitter, no question about it. Great New York ball player, the Giants, and he will always be remembered by those of us that love the national pastime. No question about it.
Well, here you go, Skip. Okay, Chris sets it out there. Baseball Reference has him making $106,000 in his career. Now we're talking about Rendon. Oh my gosh!
Oh,
I need
Rendon makes that in a day.
exactly, exactly. Yeah. That's true. Great stat, though. I like that.
You mentioned Troy. I hate to tell. I'm not a very good storyteller, but you mentioned Troy Percival earlier, and we were talking about the money these guys make. We were playing poker in the Angels locker room. I guess it was 2002, and we were all betting. I think it was $100 ante or something, and Troy lost a hand, and everybody was kind of like, "Oh, you lost," or whatever. He goes, "Hold on one second. Oh, wait, I just made that bet just now." So that these guys are making hundreds of dollars a second. It's crazy. The contracts they have.
That is funny. I love that story. That's a great story. That's a really good story. I'll tell you about it. Oh, Troy, listen, I was shocked when Mike Marat didn't know who Mickey Lolich was.
Yeah, that is shocking.
Mickey Lolich, my God. How many times did George and I said this guy belongs in the Hall of Fame, but nobody's listening to us, right, George?
Yeah.
I can't
You know what the Angel, you know what the Indians did, which was amazing? We had this player development camp every winter. And what we did, we took all the highest prospects in the organization that we thought were going to get up to the big leagues. Yeah. And we had a person come in and talk about all the history of the Indians and all of the players. And it was pretty amazing to kind of just, get them to take some pride in the organization. If you're a Detroit Tiger, you got to know who Mickey Lolich is. That's crazy.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, what do you think it was like when I had to approach it on the field at Tropicana Field? I was shocked. I'm telling you, Skip, my initial, and that's when I turned to Troy. All right, Candy's patiently waiting. Go ahead. You probably got numbers, opinions, or both. Go ahead.
So, despite his power, Ott's hometown minor league team, the New Orleans Pelicans, refused to sign him because of concerns about his size. He then found a job at a lumber company in Patterson near Morgan City, where he became a sensation on the company's baseball team. Company owner Henry Williams was particularly impressed with Ott. While visiting New York, he suggested that Giants manager John McGraw give him a tryout. Ott was skeptical at first, so Williams brought Ott a train ticket to New York. Ott arrived in New York in early September. He quickly impressed observers with his hitting, especially McGraw, who predicted that he would be one of the greatest left-handed hitters the National League has ever seen. He originally started, Scott, as a catcher, but McGraw concluded that Ott was too small to be a major league catcher and converted him to an outfielder. He was 5'9", 170 pounds.
Whoa.
But he led the National League in home runs, a then record 6 times. He became an all-star for 11 consecutive seasons.
Wow.
Pretty
500
interesting.
homers, 5'9". Wow.
That is pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't think I can
A lot
top
of power.
that. I'm not going to try and top it, but Candy tipped us on to the fact there are no hitters this year, so we're going to continue our series of no hitters.
He also was hit. Keep in mind too, he was also hitting in a hitter's graveyard, which was the Polo Grounds.
Okay. All right. Everybody's wondering about no hitters. There aren't any so far. So you know what? We have a new series about no hitters that we actually introduced on Saturday. Now we have another one. Now we're going to go out there and go back to July 13th, 2013. Who threw it that day? Tim Lincecum throws a no-hitter as the San Francisco Giants beat the Padres 9-0. And with it, he throws 13 strikeouts. All right, Cassie, you can lead off with this one. What are your thoughts about Timmy Lincecum throwing a no-hitter July 13th, 2013?
I mean, he was the freak for a reason. I mean, he was a big part of those San Francisco Giants teams. Was probably the premier pitcher in the National League for a time. But yeah, I mean, I remember when that went down. I mean, the guy was just unbelievably filthy that day.
Rob?
Yeah, well, for that little period of time, he was one of the best pitchers in baseball. He won the Cy Young in 2008 and 9, right? 3 World Series with the Giants, 4-time All-Star, 3-time World Series. And he led the league in strikeouts from 2008 to 2010. So that's 3 consecutive years. So yeah, he was due to get a no-hitter. If anybody was due to get a no-hitter with that, with his wind-up and everything, he's the guy. I mean, he was great for a couple of years.
See, Candy, you got me interested. Don't you say there are no hitters? You gave me ideas how to look for these things. All right, George.
Yeah, Tim was a great pitcher. I mean, yeah, those years that he had with the Giants, I mean, it was just incredible. And he has a little flair on his side. He's just got a little bit extra flair, and I think the fans really took them well, especially with the winning years he had in San Francisco. Those fans really, really took a liking to him. A no-hitter is so special, and as we've talked about before, it's such ridiculous situations now when we're not going to be able to probably see many complete game no-hitters like, of course, we always had seen in the past. But yeah, he was a good pitcher. I really liked watching him, except when he played the team in town here.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, I know you're trying so hard to pretend you're a national broadcaster.
Yeah, that's right.
He tries. Well, he's a work in progress at this age. Okay, senility has set into both of us, especially working this business 4.5 decades, and in new media, he's been chewed out more than fill in the blank. Okay, we've had a few of those before, anyways, on another show. All right, Candy, what are your thoughts about your idea of giving me to search for no hitters, let alone that Lincecum through the one I talked about tonight?
Tim Lincecum made his major league debut in 2007 after being a top prospect in the minors for 1 year. He was one of the top pitchers in the big leagues from 2008 to 2010. After winning 3 World Series championships with the San Francisco Giants, a degenerative condition in his hips helped hasten his big league departure at the age of 32. So for him to have done what he did, let's face it, there's only what we said 300 and some no-hitters in the whole history of baseball. And baseball goes back, like, for those of you that, I mean, there's a lot of history to baseball. So kudos to him. I remember talking to my dad, and my dad was a baseball fanatic fan. He, in fact, he worked for one of the teams, and I think in all of his years of watching baseball, he never saw a no-hitter. I have been fortunate. I've seen one, but that's how rare it is. I mean,
Right.
If you've seen 1 or 2, that's probably all you've seen, to think about it. And to be a pitcher, to be at that level of your craft for one complete game was pretty awesome, pretty special.
All right, well, Skip, we have to leave you last on this one because it's your forte.
Yeah, I loved watching Tim pitch. When I think of Tim, and I think he throw a couple of no-hitters, or did he just throw one? I thought he threw multiple. Anyway,
I know the one anyway.
So when I think of Tim Lincecum, he's kind of the first guy that people started basing these new pitching mechanics that they're teaching today out of, right? Candy talked about his hips going bad very early in his career. He was called the freak for a reason. And it's because this guy was a super, super duper athlete. And he used every part of his 5'9", 5'10" frame. He wasn't a very big guy. Right. He used every single ounce of his body to, get that kinetic energy out of that hand to throw the ball the way he could. And it was nasty, right? He had that high lead arm. He really dipped down into that, into that glute and really was the first guy to really start driving off the rubber the way they're teaching now. And that's what I think of when I think of Tim. I think, well, everybody's looking at this 5'9", 5'10" guy. Roy Oswalt was kind of the same way. How did those guys really generate all of that velocity that they generate? And it's because of the way they use their lower half and the separation between their upper half and their lower half. And that's what everybody's teaching today. And that's why everybody's throwing so hard. Now you take a guy that's not 5'9" and he's 6'3", 6'4", and you give him the same mechanics and teach him to use his body the same way, and you get 103 miles per hour like some guys are throwing. So, that's what I think about when I think of Tim. Amazing athlete, really studied pitching and used his body the right way. Right. And people started to emulate that to try and be the best they could be as well. Unfortunately, his career was cut short because he was using every ounce of his body that he could. Now, maybe this is one of the reasons that we're seeing more and more injuries to pitchers, because we're teaching them to throw with everything they have. I think when I was growing up, I remember coaches, hey, throw 90% and throw strikes, get ahead, get outs, get ground balls, make them put the ball in the play the first 3 pitches. Now it's like sit down, drive out, throw 100, punch a guy out. Doesn't matter how many pitches. We're going to get you out after 5 innings. Go out there and let it go. And we're seeing these injuries skyrocket.
All right, so let's get a clarification on it. I guess he did throw 2 no-hitters, and it looks like they were against the Padres, if I'm reading this correctly?
Yes, he was the first pitcher to throw multiple no-hitters against the same team in consecutive seasons, and they were both against the Padres. One was at Petco Park. It was a 9-0 Giants victory where he struck out 13 batters, and the second one, less than a year later in 2014, was at AT&T Park, which is now Oracle Park in San Francisco.
Very good. Interesting. All right, so we were introducing a new segment tonight, although it's on the Wednesday night show, but Skip was on that since he liked it so much. We're going to have 2 non-sports topics tonight and a travel one. The travel one I just started. But before we do that, I have one more baseball thing I want to get to first, since we started the show with an all-star type of idea. That Team USA is loading up for the WBC next year. They're going to have Aaron Judge and Cal Raleigh will be there for the Catcher 26. But back when the All-Star game was going, Judge's attitude about being an All-Star for the 7th time, I'll be on the couch watching this a couple of years. So I'm just trying to enjoy the moment. So we'll talk about the World Baseball Classic, but you're right. Judge is enjoying it. And I think a lot of players should go out there and enjoy the opportunity to be an All-Star, because you'll look back on it one day, hey, wow, I was a 7-time, 10, 12-time All-Star, and that's what will be on your Hall of Fame plaque, and he's going to be in it anyway. So what are your thoughts about Judge playing in the World Baseball Classic, Skip, as well as appreciating his All-Star situation? And everybody else, now that you saw how I asked the question to Skip, you can respond after that.
Yeah, I love that approach, right? He's right. Somebody alluded to it earlier on this podcast. You don't get to play this game forever, right? Some people get to play it for a few years. Some get to play it for 22. Nolan Ryan gets to play it for 27. But most guys, I think there's 2,000 people that have 10 years in the big leagues in the history of the game. 2,000 players or coaches that have 10 years in the big leagues. That's it. So he is just enjoying it and going out there. Look, is he going to remember, every game of a 162 game season in a major league season? No. Is he going to remember the WBC, the All-Star games? Absolutely. Those are going to be things that he remembers until he's in the grave, and he's going to be telling his kids about it. He's not going to tell them about some random, game on a Saturday night, at Yankee Stadium. So I love this approach. I think guys should do this. He loves the game, and he's there for the fans. I think that's a big motivating factor for him. This guy's a great, great ambassador for baseball. He always has been. He does everything the right way. He's a great leader for the Yankees, and he's a great leader for Major League Baseball. And I love that he's going to be participating. Everybody's going to tune in to see Judge.
The only way I'm going to respond to your comments is one way, and I'm not saying any more on the topic. GMTA, great minds think alike, and I'm not saying no more about it because you are right on target. That's my comment for the segment. Eric, you go ahead.
I mean, if you can find a guy who somehow mixed in Don Mattingly's humbleness with Derek Jeter's leadership, you got Aaron Judge right there who's somehow been able to mix both, and you don't hear about him off the field, unless he's having a kid, which that's just gonna make news anyway. But other than that, you don't really hear about him. The guy's all in. I mean, he's playing the game the right way. He's going to be the fact he's joining Team USA is very exciting. I mean, I think with the players who are announced for this team, it's probably the best Team USA team yet. I mean, you got Cal Raleigh, you're going to have Paul Skeens. I mean, obviously the whole roster hasn't been set up yet, but you got yourself a nice team there that I think is going to give Japan a run for its money. And, it's exciting. I mean, I think this is great for the game. Judge is going to have a lot more international appeal now, more than obviously everyone in New York knows him. But the fact that he's going to be broadcasted to a worldwide audience, people can see just how talented of a player he really is.
Rob.
What more could I say? I agree with everything, right? I mean, really, what could I add to it? He's great. It's great that, he's going to enjoy this stuff. Like Mickey said, these are the games that he's going to remember. He's not going to remember a rainy Wednesday night game against Seattle. He's not going to remember that stuff. He's going to remember this. He's going to remember the World Baseball Classic. And it's not only for him, it's for the fans. They love it. And, it's a good thing for baseball.
George.
Plus, Rob, he's not winning any World Series over there with the Yankees, so he's got to have some kind of memories, doesn't he?
That was great. That was great. I lied. I'm saying something. That was great. That's a broadcast coming out of Callaway.
I kind of set myself up for that. So yeah.
You gotta post that one, Candy.
That was a low blow.
Give him credit.
You know what? That's the thing about Callaway.
He dunked.
Now let me finish here. This is the thing about Callaway. Now we know he's come to the other side. He's a member of the media. But he does that. He wouldn't have gotten away with it at any other place but here. Now he's a member of one of us. Let's go ahead. When I see this guy, we're gonna get him a media credential and a badge that says media. That was what earned it there.
Scott, real quick. Mickey has done press conferences. He did it for 2 years with the Mets. He's been millions of people watched them. I mean,
Yeah, but he's on the other end of it. You sick of man. Now I got you to kick around tonight. Oh, I love
before I could only protect. Now I can, I can take a little jab here or there.
Yeah. Now I got Rob to kick around tonight. I can't kick on Wednesday night. Why you Rob tonight? You're the sixth head of the night. You are the sixth.
Bring it on. Bring it on.
Oh, I'm saving it for Friday, but now I get a piece of the action tonight, and then Wednesday when I get me Bumby or whatever his name is on the email. Oh, I don't know. It's still a fun one, though. I love it.
It's
But
Scott.
now Rob has been honored as the sixth head of the night because Mickey is a member of the media. All right, Rob, take your punishment, and it's okay. I'm sure you'll be laughing at us in a boxing match on Friday night. All right, George, now that I got that out of my system, there goes a couple more hours of my sleep. Who cares? I don't get it anyways.
Judge is a good guy, and this is a great
Sick
forum.
them, Ed.
This is a great opportunity on the world stage. So I'm all for it. I'm glad he feels that way because they need more attraction to that series, the World Championship. World Classic, and he'll be great for it. He really would. He's got a good following already, but it'll even be greater.
Well, not only that, he appreciates the All-Star game, right, George?
That's right.
Okay,
That's
good.
right.
I don't have to call you a sick head tonight. Rob got it tonight. Don't worry. There'll be plenty more sick heads headed Rob. I love the guy, but don't get me wrong. Every time I get Rob and Chris to go ahead and get out there, I like to just give it to these guys. I'm used to it with them. It's okay. It's a good thing. All right, go ahead, Candy.
What Aaron Judge is to MLB is what Giannis Antetokounmpo is to the NBA. They both represent their country. They both are very good men, very outstanding, very good in their craft, and people that young people can look up to. Love it.
Okay, well, you know what? Then this is probably the right non-sports topic I needed to turn us into the break. And I'm going to love these non-sports topics because I'm telling you, I got so many of them. I need to find another show to put them on. And since Mickey's on this, he doesn't get Wednesday night. I want to burn him out doing too many. I had to put him on Monday. I was thinking about you, Mickey. I really did. And now we get at least one or two of these and a travel one a night so we can loosen it up. So Rob doesn't have to feel he's missing out on anything Wednesday when me Bumbo gets bumbled every time he hears him and his head rolls over like a dreidel or a top after he's rolling over unprepared without the topics anyways. Anybody get that? Then you're way better than that. No, I don't know what's going to nothing's going to shut me up at this point. Even a Margarita or Louisville Slugger wouldn't do it at this point where I'm at after the Duke kicked in earlier. But if I'm going to Japan, I'll tell you what. Here's one of the two non-topic sports topics tonight. In Japan, people, in Japan, it's completely normal. And I said normal, everybody. Okay, and socially accepted. Take a nap during work. But don't do it on my show. I got more topics. Skip! So normal to take a nap at work. What do you think?
Yeah.
And socially accepted. But don't, if you're ever in college, don't do that or they'll call on you. Talk to me. I got called on a few times when some of the rest are boring. But we got to keep the focus on Japan. Take it off me. So, all right, Skip. Would you like to work in Japan where it's socially normal and acceptable to go ahead and take a nap?
Well, now it's totally normal to take a nap in Major League Baseball. They have sleep pods in a lot of the clubhouses.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of scientific evidence now that taking a 20 to 30-minute nap, drinking a cup of coffee, take a 20-minute nap, you get a 4-hour burst of energy that doesn't go away. So we have sleep pods. Sleep rooms, like designated sleep rooms in some of the clubhouses now. So guys go take a nap like almost right up to game time, right before they go stretch. You'll see guys in there taking naps, and it's quite the thing. So I think the Japanese maybe were ahead of their time and started using that science to their advantage to try to be more productive at work.
I like the way you tied that into Major League Baseball. I really do. But the Japanese are all.
I thought it was a baseball subject. I thought you knew that was going on in the big leagues.
No, I had to leave a little something out there for you because you have the inside. I don't get clubhouse access with the Marlins. How am I going to know? How am I going to know? Really, I don't get it out there. I have to fight for what I can get. But we've done better with them, right, Candy? We go ahead and do the dugout media availability, and the Marlins kicked in a player this week, and we did it in advance, and that's how I got Don Mattingly through the Jays. No, really, this is one of those that wasn't a baseball subject. But if you wanted to make it one because you had updates, I have no problem with doing it because you won't be able to do the next one with an update, but you got away with this last one. That's why they're doing it, not one. All right, Candy, you don't need to research this. If you want to research it, what are your thoughts on the Japanese taking a nap at work? And then we'll go to a station break after that.
I think it's a great idea because I think if someone's tired and you're just trying to plow through the day, you don't get that burst of energy. So the output of work that you're putting out significantly decreases. So if you can take a quick 20-minute power nap, that'll help increase your productivity, and I'm all for it. I mean, let's face it, a lot of people think that when you go to lunch and you have, if you have a big lunch, you get food coma and you're just like dragging and stuff like that. So to take a nap, I'm all for it.
Okay.
Although don't extend my work day.
Yeah, cute. All right, Eric.
I mean, Japan is ahead of the United States in a lot of in virtually a lot of different categories, and the fact that the United States hasn't adopted this, bro. When you're like at your desk just trying to plow away, bro, it does not work. Eventually, you hit the crash. I mean, you're trying your best to stay awake there, trying to do whatever, but nah, it's not gonna work. But the fact that the United States hasn't caught on to this is rather shocking. They believe in, squeeze every ounce out of you to the point where you can barely walk out the door. But I mean, but if anything, George Costanza tried this while he worked for the Yankees, and it worked out pretty well for him when he fell asleep under his desk. So in the spirit of Seinfeld, it's I wish more companies adopted this, because I have a feeling they'd be making a lot more money.
Rob. Yeah, I don't go ahead and read lips, Rob. So if you want to take the mute button off, I can better understand you.
Sorry about that. I had a motorcycle go by. I'm in a high rise, and I did not want you to hear that.
Rob, you can take a nap if you need one. Go ahead.
No,
you were making a nap.
What I was saying is, are you trying to tell me that all the naps I took while I was working was not socially acceptable in the United States?
I'm telling you.
I'm just learning this now. I thought it was all right.
I'm not telling you nothing. You are learning, and now I'm calling you.
Did you get away with it
again? The sixth
I
man
was
of
in
the
the
night.
media for 38 years in management. They didn't see me.
Is that all?
So you just shut your blinds and just boom, you're out cold.
That's okay.
I didn't. I'm only kidding, guys. I didn't have enough time.
I had to mess with Rob tonight. I was waiting for this opportunity. He left it wide open. 38. That's all, George. He's a rookie compared to
That's enough. I'm retired. That's it.
Oh,
You're a rookie.
It's a smart man.
Well, the only thing I could say is I wouldn't want to be the manager policing that, okay? Because you're looking after. Okay, let's see. Sally started her nap at 11:10. George started his at 11:30. Oh, come on, Candy. You're a manager. You're gonna go walking around and saying, "Okay, George, time to get up." It's not gonna happen. Not in the United States.
Alarm.
And it can't be equal, because if you're working in a manufacturing environment on an assembly line, definitely they cannot see you be away for that long a time. And so you got this, okay, white collar guys can do it, blue collar guys can't do it. I don't see it working here, but I give Japan credit. It's somehow working for them. I'll have to find out more details how they pulled that off. But that's just my 2 cents.
All right. Well, your 2 cents is good enough for me. I enjoyed that response because, you did work in the assembly lines for a little bit, being from Detroit, and you make a valid point. But I'm going to Katie Ebley for a valid station break. Did you comment on this one, Katie? I think you did, right?
I did comment on this one, but I've also worked in the assembly line and factories and stuff like that too. And I still say, to get more output, a 20-minute nap would be beneficial.
Well, I don't qualify for any of it because I don't sleep anyway, so take me out of the equation. All right, go ahead, Katie, but I'm not taking you out of the equation for a station break. Go ahead.
Okay. South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganroth. And the foreword is written by George Eichhorn. Great job, gentlemen. It talks about media and how it has changed over the last 40 plus years. It is available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content, so go check out our website. If you'd like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you'd like to advertise, you can always call Scott, 954-304-4941, and if you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune.com. I do want to do one quick plug. For those of you that don't know, starting next week, Wednesday, we are going to have a series It's going to have a special guest. It's going to be about CTE. And we're going to have somebody from the 1994 U.S. Olympic bobsled team on the show. So stay tuned, 8:00 p.m. next week, Wednesday, a series that we're going to start. Okay, Scott, back to you.
Thanks, Candy, you're plugging it. Yeah, it'll be on No Limits. Skip, I've already talked about bringing you on there. They already know about your involvement, that you're going to be one of the first guests that we have to get on there. This is going to be an unbelievable show. All right, we're going to go back to New York for a moment. The New York Yankees to host the Mets on the 25th anniversary of 9/11. It's the second time that New York squads will play each other on September 11th. The teams met at Citi Field on 2021 for the 20th anniversary. Rob, were you at that game?
No, that was at I was not there. That was at Citi Field. That was when the Mets won 7-6, I believe.
Okay.
I did watch it, but I like that they honor the first responders by
Right.
wearing the hats of FDNY and the police and the EMTs. I know, Mickey, when you managed the Mets for those 2 years, you wore the hats, right?
Yes, I did, and that's one of my favorite keepsakes from my time in baseball is the FDNY hat that I have.
Yeah, so I love that they do that, Scott.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Since you went upstairs to talk to Skip, you can talk about it now too.
Yeah, I mean, I love it, right? I think that New York is the place, and they should try to do that on that anniversary every year if they can, scheduling wise, because that's the city that was affected so much by that tragic event. And like Rob said, anytime you have our first responders on the field, I got to stand there next to them during the national anthem, and it was just a thrill to get to be around those guys, to get to meet them and stand out on the field, with my hat over my heart, really just an emotional moment every time they're out there. And, we usually did it once a year and I really, really immensely enjoyed it.
Well, I mean, I love when they play God Bless America at all the games and stuff. It's great. And yeah, we have to give our respects to the first responders as well. Eric?
Oh yeah, every this is great for baseball. I mean, I wish they did it every year, given the magnitude of what happened. I mean, especially when baseball eventually came back, you had Mike Piazza's home run against the Atlanta Braves, an iconic moment, and the Yankees went to the World Series that year. I mean, it's going to be great for baseball. The fact that you see them once a year wearing, either the hat of the New York Fire Department or the hat of the New York Police Department. To be truthful, I wish it would be the one game every year where anybody who was involved at the event should be able to go in and enjoy the game for free. I mean, come on, it's not that much to ask given the atrocities that they saw that day. It's also every year I tend to call my parents to make sure that they're okay. Given that my father worked in that building for a number of years, obviously pre 9/11, but still. But still, it's going to be great for baseball. It's a great day all around, and I'm just happy to see those two New York teams play on that day. Given that it happened in New York City, iconic moments happened to both teams during that period of time, and overall, though, it's going to be just great for baseball and great for New York City all around.
George?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I know they're going to celebrate with a lot of special activities because it'll be the 25th anniversary. And I'll never forget when the president came out to that World Series game and threw that ball and that ovation that he got on the field at Yankee Stadium. That was not the first game back, obviously, but it meant a lot because it was the healing that had to happen in this country. So when he came out there and signified and that he was kind of representing everybody, to throw out that first pitch was really symbolic. And you're right. I mean, I don't know why we don't do more celebrating of it. I mean, we have a lot of days in the calendar year for baseball, fighting cancer and Jackie Robinson Day. Don't get me wrong. These are all good days. But like you said, Eric, I mean, this day is etched in all our memories, full of sadness and sorrow and shock too. So I think it'll be really good, and they should try to schedule that game every year. I think the Mets and the Yanks.
Candy?
Nobody liked what happened on 9/11, but I think we all would agree that we like the America that came out of that was there on 9/12. And I think this is a memory, a remembrance of how the country came together, how we all were one. We all talked about being united, and I loved the symbolism with all the flags that we had that were American flags. I loved how the NFL came back. They came out the first game that was played. They carried the American flag out onto the field. I think all these little gestures are just great reminders that sometimes we need to be reminded of the bad things that happen in our country because they're history. And I think so much of our history isn't brought to attention. Like you guys talked about earlier on the broadcast, young baseball players don't know Mickey Lolich. How do you play the game and how do you not know history? So I think these two teams playing each other on as a commemorative on that day is just a great remembrance. And Scott, you and I visited the Trade Center and the memorial that they have and stuff like that. And I think those history things you need to do. So I think kudos to the New York teams if they can, do that, every year and play each other. I think we need more and more of that.
Yeah, I definitely applaud them. We have a lot more topics to get to, not all more sports, so we'll continue to roll. Number one, I definitely applaud the move. All right, let's go back to a trade deadline deal. This is an interesting one because it has a good name attached to it. But the Kansas City Royals did trade for Mike Yastrzemski from the San Francisco Giants. What are your thoughts about that trade, Eric?
The Giants, yeah, they're playing better baseball now, but that's just how baseball goes. But at the time though, they just had to get what they could because they need young guys right now because what they have going is not working. But to me it was like, but to me the Giants were just doing what they had to do at that point. I mean, it's just part of doing business in baseball is if you think you can get something off a certain player, you go ahead and do it. But with the Royals though, he's been unbelievable. 7 home runs, 14 RBI, and he's slashed 235, 324, 504 with an OPS of 828, and he's been an above average hitter in Kansas City than he was in San Francisco. But part of the reason too is San Francisco is again another one of those hitter graveyards where in order to hit a home run you really have to give it a whack over there. And he's in a hitter friendly ballpark and it's been great to see him thrive there.
Rob?
Yeah, well, the Giants at the time were sellers, right? Who knew that they were going to start winning and they're only a game and a half behind the Mets for that last wild card spot, right? But for Kansas City, sometimes that happens on the trade, with these trade deadline trades. He goes to Kansas City, he's re-energized, right? And he starts hitting. And then we see the opposite where they're traded and they just die. And I'm not going to mention any names, but it is. I'm going to mention a name. It's happening to Mullins with the Mets. I applauded that move, and it's not working out in New York for Mullins. So you have Yaz is doing great in Kansas City. Mullins not so good in New York. Both trade deadline trades.
That's okay. George?
Yeah, I mean, Yastrzemski, obviously his grandfather, always be in our memory. Those of us that loved that baseball back at Fenway Park in 1967, I believe it was, Carl. And, and the kids had, he's been a little bit up and down. Okay, so he started out with Frisco back in 2019. He had some decent numbers, 21 home runs, 25 home runs another year. And I think this will help him out, not only to get on a new team, but create more excitement for him and his family and his career. Kansas City has been, up and down. They're 10 games out right now behind Detroit. But the fact of the matter is I think the trade was a good one for Kansas City. He's a good ball player, and I really like him. I think that, getting the right coaches and getting the right time and and maybe cutting down some more on his strikeouts, which a lot of players need to do that, not just him. I think it'll be good. It'll be a good move for him in Kansas City. Yeah.
Candy.
I think sometimes we forget when you are traded in the middle of the season, you're going to a team that's already set. You already have personalities. Now, the question is, how welcoming are the rest of the players to you and open to you coming in and playing with them? And I want to say there are some personalities where that happens really instinctively, and sometimes it doesn't. And so I think that affects you. I think it affects you. What kind of media market are you going into? Are you getting traded to the Mets and now you're going to be under pressure because the media scrutiny is out there? Or are you going to a small market team, that where they're more open and forgiving? And so there's a lot that goes into some of these trades that I don't think we think of on the personal level and side of things that can affect how you play on the field as well.
Skip.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with Candy. All those things are definitely huge factors when you're going to another team. And, sometimes, usually what happens at the trade deadline is you're on a team that was hoping to do a little bit better and things have gone south and the attitude is not great. Then you go over to a team that has a chance to go to the playoffs. That's why they're trading for you. And you see this whole new rejuvenated atmosphere that you haven't seen in a while, probably since spring training. And, you kind of rubs off on you and you start to play really well. And like Rob said, it can go the other way. There's no guarantees in any trades. But I like Yastrzemski. I managed against him in 2019 when he came up. I like the way he swung the bat back then. And, I think he's going to be a good addition for them. He's a good acquisition at the trade deadline. We all saw it. The San Francisco had just had to make moves. Bob came out and said, "Hey, we just got to do what we got to do. We got to go get some young players because the direction we're going isn't working." And then look what happens. You go get some of the young players an opportunity, and all of a sudden everything's rejuvenated over there. So baseball's a crazy game. Anything can happen, especially with trades and things like that. So I think it was a great move for both teams, right? It just wasn't working out in San Fran. And then the Royals had a need, and he's producing. So great trade on both sides, in my opinion.
All right, I'll just make mine short and sweet. I think ultimately he winds up with the Boston Red Sox, plays at Fenway Park. That's what I think. So now, with that said, I'm going to segue to a Boston topic. Okay. Well, there's a method for my madness. Luis Tiant on July 3rd, 1968. Okay. Luis Tiant. Yeah, I thought the lights went out in New York when Rob popped off because I mentioned this. Okay. So on July 3rd, 1968, Luis Tiant strikes out 19 hitters in 10 innings of work. This performance helped lead the Indians to a 1-0 victory over the Minnesota Twins. Tiant sets 2 modern day records, most in a 10-inning affair and 32 strikeouts in consecutive nights. Mr. Pitching, what are your thoughts about El Tiante's accomplishment?
Yeah, I mean, he was obviously an awesome pitcher, right? He's will forever be in baseball lore just because of the way he pitched and how successful he was. I loved his delivery, right? We all know the cool delivery, but he, striking out 19 batters in a game is ridiculous. Yeah. I remember I was there for Corey Kluber's 18 strikeout performance against St. Louis Cardinals, and it really feels like they're striking everybody out on 3 pitches that walks up to the plate. It's insane. You're just like, how is he doing this? So I can only imagine 19 and then 32 in consecutive days, you said?
Yeah, he had 32 in consecutive starts.
Oh, consecutive starts. Okay, I thought he threw back-to-back days. I was like, that's even more insane. But I'm sure somebody's done that. But that's amazing. 32 strikeouts in 2 games and 2 starts for a starting pitcher. That's unheard of.
That's why I brought it up. I like these stats that are unheard of. Don't worry, there's plenty more where that came from. Candy.
This is really up Mickey's alley because that's a pitcher's dream. Whereas if for me as a fan, I like to see a little bit more hitting, but if you love, so the one thing I would say, back in the day, if you wanted to see a short game, this is going to be one of your shorter games, because a pitcher's duel like that, when you're striking everybody out, goes a lot quicker. So they wouldn't have needed the pace of the game probably back then when he was pitching. But kudos to him, because I can't imagine doing that. But good accomplishment.
I've always liked Louis Tiant's quirky motion with his eyes and head all over the head.
Mhm.
We just got a bobblehead the other day. Can you imagine what a bobblehead would look like with Louis Tiant? Oh my God!
It'd be very accurate.
He was a pitching bobblehead every 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Eric?
Well, I mean, Louis Tiant's obviously a guy who's forever in baseball lore. Actually, in the 1975 World Series, Mr. Hit King himself, Pete Rose, wondered how he was going to hit that guy, and Pete Rose hit just about anybody and everybody. From a scrub to a Hall of Famer. But again, he's 19 strikeouts. That's hard to do, especially nowadays when it seems like I don't think we'll see it now, especially when teams are pulling you after six, seven innings. Once in a while, you'll get a Tarek Skubal perfect game. But other than that, though, you're not gonna really see that anymore. But it's definitely cool to see. I mean, it's just one of the many accomplishments Louis Tiant has had when he played.
Okay, Rob.
I was lucky enough to see Tiant play at Yankee Stadium, the Red Sox Yankees, when I was a kid. Yes, sometimes I went to Yankee Stadium.
You should have gone more.
No. And that motion was great. I mean, just I was lucky I was in the box seats, so I got to get a really good view of that motion when I was a kid. Loved it. He was great. That was a great accomplishment.
George?
Yeah, he was a great pitcher, no question about it. Had the chance to see him, I think, one time at Tiger Stadium. Just a remarkable athlete, and representing the start of good things for Major League Baseball from the Caribbean, and getting players, from Central America. He finished 12-9 that year, which, even though he had so many strikeouts, he finished with 219 strikeouts in 1967. But the important thing is that he led the Red Sox to the American League pennant, even though they came up short against St. Louis, of course, in the World Series that year. He had a remarkable season, as did Carl Yastrzemski that we alluded to earlier, the year he won the Triple Crown. Louis Tiant, yeah. People always said, oh, he's lying about his age. Hey, who gives it? You know what? The guy was colorful. The guy was a great pitcher. He did what he did. Like you said, Scott, he had that unique style with those eyes and turning of his head. I liked watching him pitch. I really did. And that is a great achievement on those strikeouts, by the way. Yeah, for sure.
Well, ever since we brought Callaway on, I always like to come up with these pitching stats. Go ahead, Candy. You want to add something to it?
So, I do want to add something to it, because tonight, Trey Yesavage records 9 strikeouts in his Major League debut, setting a new Blue Jays record. So just had to add that, since we're talking about strikeouts, for a kid in his Major League debut to set the Toronto Blue Jays record. That's pretty cool too.
All right, thanks for adding it. All right, well, one guy who won't strike out because he's retired in the Hall of Fame, and we like to do an Ichiro and a Nolan Ryan comparison. We'll do one right now. But get this, Ichiro Suzuki never struck out 4 times in a game in 653 career MLB games. He struck out on just 22 occasions. He struck out on just 22 occasions 3 times. Skip, this is too surreal with Ichiro.
Yeah, I mean, contact hitter, right? If you watch
Right.
Ichiro in batting practice, he's practicing like he plays in the game. I've also heard and I've seen that he could hit the ball out of the ballpark at any moment he wanted to, right? I've seen him take BP, and then all of a sudden, let's hit some homers, and it's just 10 in a row, right? But that goes to show you he valued getting hits. He could have hit 45 homers a year easily, but he wanted hits, and that's what his team needed. He wanted to get on base, and that's what the game's all about. And, I think he is a Hall of Famer because of it. If he was up there trying to hit homers, I don't think he makes it to the Hall of Fame. Right. And I don't think his teams benefit from him as much, just trying to sit there and hit homers. So I loved, who he was as a player and the way he played. And it doesn't surprise me that he never struck out 4 times in a game. That is not surprising to me at all.
Don't worry, I got more stats on him in the coming weeks. I'm just trying to cherry pick the ones that I think are the most interesting week in and week out based on where the show's going. All right, Eric.
Well, it doesn't shock me because this is the same guy who was once quoted saying he liked infield hits better and impressing people with his technique than his brute strength, which, but again, Ichiro was like the best all around player. He could homer if he really wanted to. He was just that good, but you needed a double from him. You got it. You needed a stolen base from him. You got it. You needed an infield hit from him. You got it. And if that ball is just hitting the grass though, good luck getting him. But it's again, that's another reason why he was just truly one of the best all around players of my generation.
Rob.
All I got to say is one vote. Really? One vote. That's all I got to say about it.
George.
Ichiro was a great ball player. He was great when he played in Asia. He's great when he came to the United States. No question about it. I mean, his hitting prowess was fantastic. It really was. And I think Major League Baseball fans ought to be grateful. I'm sure most of them are, that he, bulk of his career was in the United States. And certainly the Hall of Fame honor was long overdue. I know there's a waiting period, of course, I know that. But I think he really connected with a lot of fans. And a lot of fans who heretofore might not follow Major League Baseball, of course, being the fact that he was coming from, Asia, and just a great following of fans and a great following and a great career.
Well, he ceases to amaze me. Wait till next week. I'll have another stat. All right. Well, with that said, yeah, he does cease to amaze me. All right. Let's go on to our Nolan Ryan stat of the night.
Wait.
Go ahead, Candy.
Thank you.
That's all right.
So he had incredible speed. He studied pitchers closely. Cited by CBS Sports and sourced from Fangraphs for a period starting in 2002, Ichiro batted balls were distributed almost perfectly evenly to his pull side, the right side, 31.3% of the time, up the middle, 35.3% of batted balls, and to the opposite field, 33.4% of the batted balls. So he could put it wherever.
Okay, you're done with stats. You'll ruin my future segments on this. That's probably why I had you squirming.
Okay.
That's why, because you're always going to come up with stuff. You're going to ruin my segments. Really? Seriously, really? All right, on to Nolan Ryan. Now you know. Okay. In 1989, at the age of 42, Nolan Ryan defied Father Time, leading the league with 301 strikeouts and 239 innings pitched. This will never be broken. Skip, what do you think about Nolan the Ryan amassing those numbers?
Yeah, that's insane. 42 years old, you said at the time?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Wow, that's just amazing. Most guys are starting their coaching career at that point in time, or a few years in it. So, I mean, he was the man. He was the man. He was my hero. I loved the work ethic. I loved the bulldog mentality. Obviously I loved seeing how the pitch shapes that he would feature up there when he was pitching. It was unbelievable the way he could make his, change up drop and his curveball curve. It was just fascinating. So, but to do it at 42, that's just insane. Then nobody will ever do that again for sure.
That's why it's on there. 301 strikeouts. All right, Candy, go ahead. You know the drill this second time, right?
You really want me to speak?
Well, that's why I went on. That's why I gave it to you second this time and not fifth. I didn't give you enough time to respond and add to it.
He consistently his pitches were clocked over 100 miles per hour. He maintained his velocity throughout his career. He was an exceptional pitcher, and he struck out a lot of people. Good. Kudos. Great career.
That's a good response for Nolan Ryan. Okay. This is general. there are two people you can use general responses: Ichiro Suzuki and Nolan Ryan. Okay, Eric.
I mean, it's the Express. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, when you went in the batter's box against him, you had to buckle up because you knew the 100 plus mile an hour heat was coming. This guy, Nolan Ryan is just incredible. He's the greatest pitcher of all time, and he did it consistently and well for a long, long time.
Sure did. 28 years. All right, Rob.
And what more could I add to this conversation about Nolan Ryan? He was the best, right? And forever, he did it forever. It's like I'm a little kid watching Nolan Ryan, and then I'm in high school watching him, and I'm out of high school, and he's still pitching. That is what's amazing to me. That is amazing.
Yeah, and you're on Tuesday nights, and you get more information every Tuesday night when I dig it out of my pocket and throw it at your direction. Okay, go ahead, George.
Well, look at it this way. He was in 4 decades, okay? He began in 1966, so you'd see him in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. And his career totals, I know that, a 526 winning percentage isn't the best, but come on, 324 wins this man had, 3.19 ERA, and all the strikeouts we've talked about, innings pitched, unbelievable. Yeah, the Express was really, really taking down a lot of teams. Boy, you face this guy, and you better be ready to buckle it up.
All right, we have another pitching topic. I like to get in these when Mr. Callaway is on. We're going to talk about Blake Snell this time. He strikes out 10 in a second inning outing back from the IL, went 5 scoreless innings. How encouraging is this to see Skip when Blake Snell is able to go 10 in a second outing back after being on the IL?
Yeah, that's awesome. It's great for the team. It's great for his confidence because anytime you're coming off the IL like that, you always kind of wonder, am I going to be ready to face major league hitters? Do I need to lengthen my rehab stint or whatever? So it's always a question and above everybody's head and including the player. So when you can come back and strike out 10 guys in your second outing back, it's going to be probably a huge boost for him. So you can see the Cy Young Blake Snell that we've all seen in the past. And I think that'll really help him moving forward.
Andy?
It helps not only him, his team, but the relief pitchers behind him, because the longer he can go right after coming back out is great, because you want your relief pitchers to be pitching as few innings as possible.
Eric?
I mean, the Dodgers desperately need pitching, especially given that their arms seem to fall into the ground just about every season, even though they signed these guys to a lot of money. And next thing you know, I'm staring at a pitcher's graveyard at Dodger Stadium. It's, again, it's nice to see that he's returned. I mean, I'm hoping that for the Dodgers' sake, I hope he can get past 5 innings, because that's been his biggest problem, because he's always been a 5 and fly guy. But yeah, the Dodgers are going to need him down the stretch. They need him at his best though, because the Dodgers are going up against a gauntlet come the postseason, and man, they have a target bigger than Chavez Ravine on their back.
That's funny. Rob?
Yeah, it's great for him. It's great for the Dodgers, just in time for the postseason, right? The Dodgers are getting healthier, and they're going to need him. But like Kat said, I don't know. Is he going to go 5 innings? Is he going to go past 5 innings? I don't know. But in the playoffs, they need him to do what he just did in the postseason. That's for sure.
George?
Yeah, I mean, it was a big investment getting him and assigning him. And, again, another pitcher who has a great, great amount of talent. And unfortunately, so many of these pitchers are going down during the season with injuries. So, yeah, of course, the Dodgers are very pleased that he's back. And if he can continue what he did the other day, I mean, that would be a big boost for them, obviously. He's only appeared in 9 games so far this season. And but he's got a good work ethic, and he's got great stuff. I expect good things from him the rest of the way.
Yeah, I got a good manager, Dave Roberts. Dave Roberts knows how to read pitchers pretty well.
Yep.
We'll go on to one past trade deadline, then we're going to wrap it up with two non-sports so that we have a little bit of fun with it. The past trade deadline met once upon a time the Detroit Tigers on August 12, 1987, traded away John Smoltz, needing pitching for the drive. They get Doyle Alexander. Smoltz was with the Richmond Braves. Listen, a lot of people are going to say the Braves won the trade. I disagree. It was a win-win for both. Detroit needed it. They got to a division title, got serviceable, but we know that Smoltz turned out to be a Hall of Famer. What are your thoughts about the trade, Skip?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think anytime you trade a Hall of Famer away, you've made a bad decision, especially if you're a Detroit fan.
Right.
No, I think that's a good trade, like you said. Both teams benefited. Obviously, Smoltz went on to have an amazing career, both starting and relieving. So, what a great trade it was for the Braves. And then, as long as the other team gets what they need in the moment, you're okay trading away, a prospect or two, even if they end up blossoming. You can't predict the future. So these front offices have a really tough decisions when they're trading people. And you make one bad trade and it hangs over your head and you're known for that trade for the rest of your life. So trades are not easy. You're always trying to win them if you're one team or the other, but it sounds like this one was beneficial for both teams.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, I don't think anybody in the Tiger organization that the Smoltz would get in the Hall of Fame, but he had a good, excellent career. They were going out there looking for the present. All right, Candy.
As a front office, you assess where your team is and where you want your team to be. And so you try and figure out who's best going to get you there. So sometimes a trade is trading away someone that may be a fan favorite, maybe, someone that has made an indelible mark on your franchise. But you're looking for the future. Sometimes if you're a team that's on the bubble, you want just that one little player that's going to, take you to the next level. So you're going to do whatever you want. So it sounds like they both benefited from the trade. So it was a win-win trade.
Eric?
Well, I know of the trade. I mean, the Tigers were in a position where they could win right now. And sometimes when you're in win right now, you have to be willing to mortgage the future. I would say it's a win-win for both sides because again, the Tigers, they won their World Series championship. I mean, they got their parade. And then the Braves, obviously, they got, John Smoltz went on to do great things for the Atlanta Braves, ended up having one of the more unique careers in baseball, both as a starter and as a closer. And, again, I wouldn't fault the Tigers for making the move. I wouldn't even fault the Braves for doing what they had to do. I mean, it's just the situation they were in at the time. The Tigers, again, flags fly forever. It's not a bad trade because every team got what they wanted at the time.
Right.
And, and overall though, it's one of those trades that kind of worked out well for everybody.
I agree. Rob?
I agree. It wasn't a bad trade for the Tigers. It wasn't a bad trade for the Braves. It was a bad trade for the New York Mets, though. I had to sneak in the Mets there because Smoltz killed the Mets. So, all kidding aside, though, it worked out for both teams. Yeah. I think Atlanta, it was a little better. I mean, in the long run. But that's what I think.
George?
Well, at the time, it was a great move by the Tigers, President Jim Campbell, GM Bill LaJoy made that deal, and nobody knew, just like you said, Skip, nobody knew what John Smoltz was going to be able to do in Major League Baseball. And this happens constantly. Yankees trading prospects to get the star pitcher here or there, whatever team. It goes on and it continues. I mean, absolutely, it was a win-win. He got Doyle Alexander got this team into the playoffs, and that's what they wanted to do. So it was a great trade for both teams.
Yeah, I'll agree. So now I get to go to my last two non-sports topics of the night to wrap it up. This one's easy. Oh, I like this. I think nowadays only we should have it down here. But we're going to go to a travel park in Iceland. The police do not carry guns in Iceland. And yet, it is one of the lowest crime rate countries in the world. Skip, no guns in Iceland. What do you
Yeah,
think of
that's an interesting stat. I think that's amazing. You know, obviously we want all of our countries to be the safest countries in the world. Sounds like they're doing things right over there. I got to play over in Korea. You know, I'm going to take all of your non-baseball subjects and I'm going to make them something about baseball. I hope you realize
that's
that,
fine.
Scott.
I like that.
But
Okay.
I got to go play over in Korea for 3 years, and there's no guns over there. And it was one of the safest places I've ever been. I lived in Seoul, and you could walk. You know, my kids could have walked down the street at 2 o'clock in the morning, and nothing would have happened to them. So, you know, they've got something going right with this non-gun stuff, I guess.
I like your twist to do that. It's okay. It's a baseball show. You can do that. All right, Candy.
Let's face it, Iceland's population is only 404,610. So there isn't as many people that live on this in Iceland either. We were there this past summer. There are a few towns where a lot of the population is, but a lot of it is spread out and people don't live on top of each other like we do in some of the cities here in the United States. But kudos to them because, you know, there's been too much gun violence in
Right.
America. So I like to hear that there aren't guns in Iceland.
Eric?
I mean, Iceland's like not nearly as big as America, and you're dealing with, you know, you're not dealing with nearly, I don't think nearly the diversity that you deal with here in America. But you know, it's still pretty good though that whatever they're doing apparently works. Maybe America could take a page out of that book.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how many of these topics Skip can really turn them into baseball. I got some other ones. And I'll see. But that'll be an intriguing competition every week now that he mentioned that.
Perfect.
All right, Rob. Rob?
Smaller, like everyone said, smaller population. They respect each other. They respect the police. So, of course, things are going to be different over there. And you know what? That's great for them. They're living healthier lives there. So it's a good thing.
Okay, George?
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, they're a country that, yeah, like you guys have said, is really more friendlier. It's a different lifestyle there. They have a lot of tourism still, obviously. But the fact of the matter is that you know, we kind of envy you. You have to envy a country like that they don't have to be worried 24/7 about somebody being mugged or shot or anything else. So I really think that these countries do teach us a good lesson. It's unfortunate we can't do that here in America right now. Maybe someday.
All I'll say is Iceland's the greatest place I've ever been so far. Okay, greatest. Last one. We'll see if Skip can actually turn this one into a baseball. Maybe it might happen sooner than later. Okay. Get this. Apple will pay you $1 million if you can hack an iPhone, the most secure phone that dares you to break it. Apple security bounty rewards researchers for finding verified privacy flaws, minor bugs, smaller payouts, elite exploits up to 1 million. Try to turn that one into a baseball topic. Skipper.
Hey, Scott, we all know that baseball has gone the way of the nerds. There's tons of people in the front offices that know how to crack an iPhone. Come on. They're all went to MIT or Yale or something.
I'm waiting for you to turn it into a baseball topic, not down. You're on the show, not them. Go ahead. I'm messing with
that's
you.
amazing. I is that really a thing?
Yeah,
They're
it's true.
giving
I'll
away
send
$1
it to
million
you.
if you can hack
I'll send it
the
to you.
new iPhone.
I'll send it to you tonight.
Somebody will figure it out. That's for sure.
All right. Well, can you turn that into or I get you on this one?
You got me.
Don't worry. There is a way to crack through the Callaway. I'll send it to them to let them know that I'm not making this stuff up. I got them. Okay, but don't worry. Now that I know that you're going to turn them all into baseball, Candy knows what happens when that happens. Go ahead, Candy. We got a few minutes left in the show.
You know, there's going to be someone that's going to hack it because there's always somebody that hacks it. There's always people, and typically they do it for bad because doing bad things can be, how should I say this? there's money to be gained, and a lot of people do fraud, and they do it the easy way. They don't always, a lot of people have such great minds and they don't want to work hard, so they do little things like hack things like this. So I wouldn't be surprised if someone doesn't hack it pretty soon. Now, whether they will admit to it and claim that $1 million or use it for evil remains to be seen.
Canty, I sent it to you,
It wasn't
Skip.
that long ago. It wasn't that long ago that Target got hacked. I mean, but let's, and Target's probably, Target's a massive corporation. They supposedly have the greatest, internet security in the world. But again, someone's gonna. I mean, it's only a matter of time. Technology is meant to be hacked. There's plenty. Somebody's going to figure it out. Someone probably who doesn't have a job, who's got nothing better to do all day, is going to figure it out.
Okay. Rob?
Agree. Someone's going to figure it out. Someone's going to get $1 million, and then it'll turn into maybe a great publicity stunt. I don't know, but someone will do it.
Well, right now, as of September 15th, 2025 at 10:39 p.m., nobody's figured it out, and somebody's going to try to get $1 million. What happens tomorrow, the next day, I don't care. Once it's out of my way, I don't care. Somebody get $1 million, and I'll come up with something else. You know me, as they say, Apollo's Creed, Charles Weathers, they would say, Rocky, you know me, I think it's something else. All right, Eichhorn, you got the last word on this.
Oh yeah, no, somebody will be able to crack it. So I really think that it's interesting hearing these type of topics. They do set your mind off in a certain direction at times, but I think it'll get cracked. Yeah,
it's worth talking about tonight. Oh, that's why I love these.
I think Apple owes the government a lot of money right now because they have every one of our phones hacked. Aren't they listening to everything we say? I'll mention something and it'll pop up on my phone. I'm like, how did my phone know this?
So that's called smartphones, not flip phones. Don't worry, I got
exactly.
So all right, asking you guys, everybody, real quickly before we turn over, what do you think of these non-sports? You guys like them? Different?
Yeah. Good change of pace. I love it.
Not bad.
Okay, I'll have 2 or 3 on every week. A travel, and I'll split them up. Don't worry, depends on what comes up because we do them on Wednesday night. They became popular, and with this show, with this group here, I definitely can do it. Anybody else want to add to it before I turn over to Candy Ebling? Everybody can talk about what they're doing, or if we
real quick, I just want to give a quick plug. You're going to be one of them. Wednesday night at 7 p.m. I will be going into enemy territory, doing a Philly show on the Captain Lou Sports Network. That's 7 p.m. Wednesday, and Friday, Scott, Motor City Madmouth, will meet Savino, the New York Loudmouth, for what's going to be a fun show Friday night at 10 p.m. That's it.
Definitely looking forward to this one. I waited a while for this one. All right, Canty, go ahead. You let everybody know how to get a hold of you. Candy will wrap it up.
Yep, you can follow me. You can follow me on my X account at Sports Team News, where I tweet all things baseball. And you can check out my blog at BellyOutSports.com, where I write about all things baseball. And if you think I don't like your team, I probably don't. And I've got a very special announcement to make. I've landed a non-sports writing gig, writing about the history of Pearl Harbor.
Good for you. Nice. All right. Great. I like that. That's good stuff.
Very cool.
And, of course, he made his first appearance on Saturday with Skip and I, and he did a heck of a job, and he's a staple on that show. All right, Eichhorn, go ahead.
Okay, you can follow my writing at the South Florida Tribune under the contributors section. At the end of my column, there's always a link to Amazon. My book is called Detroit Sports Broadcasters on the Air, chronicling over 90 years of sportscasting in Detroit and Southeast Michigan. And also, you can follow me at X, Twitter on SanG Sports 99 is my handle, or Eichhorn at yahoo.com. Oh, yes, the book. The book is there. Very good. Thank you, Candy, for putting a copy of the cover up. Appreciate it. Great being part of the action tonight.
Great segue, Candy. Now you can take it home.
The South Florida Tribune Publishing Company published a book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders. It is written by our host, Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morgenroth, and the foreword is written by George Eichhorn. Talks about 40 plus years in the media business. There's a picture of young Scott with young Muhammad Ali. There's also a picture of young Scott with young Tommy Lasorda. So go get your copy today. Again, it's available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kindle, Google, and Apple Books. There's also a link on our website, www.southfloridatribune.com, where there is a plethora of great content, so go check it out. If you like to listen to podcasts, you can find us wherever you get your podcast. If you want to advertise or sponsor a show, call Scott, 954-304-4941. If you want to be a guest or have topic ideas, you can always email us at southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you see that red subscribe button in that lower right-hand corner, that means you have not yet subscribed to us. Honestly, what are you waiting for? I mean, come on. Best programming around. So you got to click that button, like us, share us with all your friends and family, and then turn on your notifications so you're notified every time we go live. And again, I'm going to do a plug. Next week, Wednesday, we're starting a series where we are going to be talking about CTE with a former 1994 Olympian bobsledder.
Okay, and I'll also say that I'll be talking baseball with Barry Bloom on Thursday. I'll leave Skip with the last word. He does a great job on our show on Saturday. What else you got cooking, Skip? What lessons or whatever? The final floor is yours before we call it a night.
Yeah, that's it. Tune in to Talking Baseball on Saturday mornings.
Right.
We're always going to have a good time there with great content. And then if anybody ever wants video pitching lessons or pitching lessons in person, you can find me on Facebook, Mickey Callaway, and I'd be glad to get together and help out these young pitchers to develop and become big leaguers.
I'll tell you, he's become a broadcaster and a darn good one. I'm telling you, Mickey Callaway getting it done. We're giving this guy reps, and he's done a fantastic job taking advantage of him. Now he's figuring what it's like to be on the other side of the media, unlike when I gave him a hard time in St. Lucie, although he was great to me. I had no problem with him. And now we're teammates on this show. In fact, we're teammates on a couple of other shows, whatever else we've done up with. So, with that said, that does wrap it up for 108 Stitches Baseball Talk. We'll be back next week at the same time. But on behalf of Mickey Callaway, Candy Ebling, Eric Katz, Rob Morosco, I don't know. I'll say Rob. Okay, I don't know how badly I butchered up. And George Eichhorn. We'll see you next week, same time, same crew. Looking forward to it. Rob, excited about Friday night. Tell your man to get ready to, in the eyes of Michael Buffer, let's get ready to rumble. Okay. All righty. So that does it. We thank everybody in the chat room for their participation. Excuse me for getting tied up with my tongue. Then again, tell me something new, anyways. And look forward to it. And we will see you tomorrow night. Inside the Pigskin comes on around 8:30 p.m. We'll have a loaded show with a lot of great football information. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you next Tuesday night. And thanks for joining us. Great job to my crew out there. Proud of every one of them. Good night now.